everybody? Welcome, welcome. Good morning. Happy Friday. It is, what is it, like 8 a.m. where I am? I'm not sure where it is, where you guys are, but hopefully it's like lunchtime, somewhere in the middle of your day where you have like a second to take some time, eat your lunch, and just like enjoy watching a random person on the internet go through some like psychology knowledge. I love these kind of lives. They're like super crazy fun for me. A team like preps for this hard just because I can't tell you how much I love learning and I love education. So today we are going to walk through the 7 identities that you should be targeting in your ads to make your ads feel instantly relevant. So anybody out here is a media buyer, CMO, marketer, if you just really love psychology and science, this is the right place for you because we're going to be walking through all these different identities that exist inside our customer bases so that we can better target our marketing and our campaigns towards those people. And if you see this weird little box in the corner, this is driving me crazy this morning. I don't know why StreamYard is putting this weird gray box. So anybody sees that, raise your hand because I'm hoping it's not just me. All right, let's walk through this. So I want to know, raise your hand too, like just drop it in the comments back here. I want to know how many of you have ever spent like weeks developing an ad because I just did this for a client where I like spent a long time on this particular ad. It was like the best thing that I had ever created. Not this one in particular. This came from a different brand, but the ad that I was generating was like, oh, this is the ad. I spent so much time on this. This is gonna be the most amazing thing that anybody's ever seen. This one is gonna freaking crush. Now, this was the interesting part because I spent weeks developing this ad, and then we ran it, and it was like total cricket. And I'm sure this has happened to you guys as well, where it's like for some reason this ad is doing nothing, and I spent weeks developing this. I tried so hard to make sure that it was really well done, and now we ran it in the ad account, and it's not working. Why does this happen? Because I've been studying ads for a very, very long time. I've been in paid advertising for years, about 6 years now, and I've been a marketer for almost 17. And I can tell you, this happens to everybody I've ever known. And we always get into the ad account and try and figure this out. Was it the targeting, right? Was it the account structure? Did we not use cost caps? Like, why didn't this ad hit? And in my experience as a creative strategist, I'm predominantly in D2C, but I've worked with B2B, I've worked with SaaS, I've worked with basically anybody that runs ads. This happens all the time where we tried our hardest. We put a lot of effort into developing an ad. We ran it and it flopped. In my experience, this almost never comes down to like a technical issue inside the ad account. Usually, when ads flop, it comes down to basically just one thing. And that's because we're targeting the wrong version of our customer. The wrong version of our customer. Now, we're going to dive deep into this because I think this is like kind of critical for anybody running ads this year or into the next couple of years. So we are going to do a Q&A at the end too. If you guys have questions, please drop them in the comments. Because yeah, I think this is where the kind of rubber meets the road. And this is where advertising is kind of headed in 2025 and beyond, 2026. Anytime you're going to be running ads in the next couple of years, this is the stuff that marketers need to know. So this particular ad, when you put a lot of effort into something and it flops, it's because we weren't actually speaking to the person we wanted to target, right? It was kind of speaking to this fantasy version of that person, what we call like the ideal self. This version of your customer is the one who's like active in 7 different skincare groups. She's like, she never misses a skincare sale. She's best friends with her moisturizer. This is the person this ad is trying to bring in, right? So that's the one that we actually ran to. Meanwhile, the other versions of your customers, like this person here, which is pretty common version of herself, or this person here, or possibly this like version of your customer here, they're all shopping on like distracted mode, right? So they're prioritizing something else over your ad. So it wasn't that their ad was like a loser per se. It might have just targeted the wrong version of your customer at the wrong time, the wrong version of your customer at the wrong time. So we are going to dive deeper into this because I think this is what's like quietly killing performance inside all of the like even the best looking ad accounts of the biggest brands. And as like a performance consultant, I've seen like just so many different ad accounts do this, and I can tell you with certainty the problem is not that your ads are failing at like persuasion because we're pretty good at persuading. You're a very smart marketer. Our problem is that our ads are failing at perception. It's a perception issue, right? We're just not hitting the right person at the right time. And this is the reason why. So let's dive deeper into this as an example. So let's say that you own a skincare brand and you are selling a $145 skincare device And so you write an ad that talks about your benefits, your features. Like you actually have a very well developed ad that says flawless skin in just 3 minutes a day. This phrase that you guys have developed was chosen specifically because it seems like it would kind of hit a wide audience. That's what we want our ads to do, is at the top of the funnel, bring in as many customers as we possibly could get. Everyone on your team loved it. The founder approved it. The media buyer was excited to scale it. And in theory, this seems like a good idea. But here's kind of what happens when you run it in the ad account. Depending on which identity, which internal identity of the person you're actually targeting gets activated with this ad, you're going to get a different response. So this one ad might be shown to somebody whose identity just kind of rolls her eyes because she's just like, I've heard this before. Flawless skin, seen it, boring, like skipping this immediately. So she scrolls, right? Another identity might see this ad. And again, when we're talking identities, I'm not talking about different avatars. I'm talking about specifically the internal identities of the person, one person that you're currently targeting. If the internal identity that you're activating feels guilty about her skin, she might think, oh, I should be doing more for my skin. And now I just feel bad about this. So I'm going to skip this ad because I just don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about what I'm doing as like a person with my skincare. So I'm going to skip this ad. The next identity might think something like, this sounds like something I would buy but never use. Like it sounds nice, but I just can't afford this right now, right? So all these different identities already exist inside your customer base, and they're being activated in different ways depending on how they feel about this ad. All three of these identities will scroll if we can't get the message right. And this is where it's critical, right? So the ad didn't flop because it was a bad idea. This is actually a really nice ad. Like flawless skin in 3 minutes a day. I understand this. It's lovely. It's clear. It's like to the point, gives me the offer. Like everything in here should be working. This flops predominantly because it's trying to hit everyone. The message is too generalized. It's not going after a specific identity that exists within your customer base. So it hits no one instead. So I want to teach you guys a little bit about how we actually put in a good process for hitting the right identities that exist inside your customer base, inside their heads. Not necessarily the avatars, right? Because avatars has to do with like moms who knit or dads who golf, right? Or people who want to lose weight. Those are avatars. I'm talking about the like emotional identities that exist within every industry, within every vertical, within every single product and market. Because there's very specific versions of yourself as a consumer and myself as a consumer that exist in every other consumer as well, because we're all human and we're all very sensitive to the same psychology. So all of this came because I own a market research firm at Tether. Tether Insights kind of analyzes all these different emotions that come out of ads in particular. So we run identity-based research across brands from D2C, B2B, SaaS, all over the place. And these are the identities, the emotional identities that we found that exist within all these different markets. Now, what we found when we started studying this, trying to pull out emotion, not just like demographic information, was that the lowest performing ads are usually the ones that are emotionally neutral, right? Like the one on the left here, flawless skin, right? In just 3 minutes a day, it's emotionally neutral. It shows me like no depth to it at all. Not targeting anyone. It's just targeting randomly, right? This is the ad that tries to go after basically everybody with one message. This is the one that typically loses in the ad account. Winners, on the other hand, though, when we study this at Tether, the highest performing ads typically go after somebody where they match what the customer wants with how the customer see themselves in that moment. So when I say avatars, I'm talking about like people who have a need, a want, desire, a problem. When I say emotional identities, I'm talking about their internal state when they see the ad. So let's dive deeper into this here because I know some of you are going to have questions about like, okay, explain that. So these are kind of the 7 identities that I'm going to show you today. These are the most common emotional patterns that we see show up in the data. And they work, like I said, across kind of any product, any industry, because they have to do with the psychology of how we process information as humans, not necessarily just one specific type of person who has a specific type of problem. So the very first one here, and just as a reminder, if you have questions, please drop them in the comments because we can go deeper into all of this at the end of this. But in general, the very first one that we typically see at Tether when we start studying the emotional, like interior world of customers is the achiever. This person, they sit in the ideal self Their valence is usually positive, and the trigger, the thing that actually gets them to move forward in the buying process, is usually capability. Now, if you're new here, if you haven't seen my content, Sarah's obsessed with psychology. All I have done for the last like 15 years is just study psychology, the behavior science behind how people make decisions. I freaking love consumer psychology. I can't get enough of it. I'm very excited about it. And I have studied all the little things that make humans buy things, right? The why behind the buy, basically. So if we start talking about the science behind the sale, there are some very specific things that come into play when we start studying how to get people to buy more things, right? In general, there's about three different things that I like to mark down for these different identities. The first is self. So self has to do which version of yourself is activated when the ad hits. Now, you have three different selves that exist inside you as a person. Anybody has psychology background or you did like psychology in college, you'll probably remember this. This has to do with self discrepancy theory. It's kind of a psychology model that's been known for quite a while. The self discrepancy theory basically says that you have three different versions of yourself that could get activated at any time. The first one is actual self. This is the person that you are constantly on a daily basis, right? This is somebody that I'm just like living my life, doing my thing. I'm not thinking about the future or the past. I'm just in one kind of frame, right? Frame of mind. So that's actual self. Ideal self is like future focus. This is very aspirational. A lot of the times, if you're in this ideal self, you attach yourself to kind of aspirational marketing. And so you get really deep into like who you're going to become, big dreams, lots of like forward thinking, right? So that's ideal self. Ought self, ought self is interesting because ought self is more guilt focused, a little bit of past focused. Ought self typically responds really well to framing around like you should be doing something, but you're not. You know better and it's time to do better, that kind of marketing. That's speaking to the ought self. So there's three different selves that exist inside every single human. This is every human on the planet, regardless of what industry or marketing you're into. Ideal self, actual self, and ought self. So for the achiever, this person sits in ideal. They really want to become somebody new, become somebody better, right? Like they're really interested in that. Valence has to do with which direction your emotional, I guess, needs are going, right? So valence is either positive or negative, and this has to do with something called like valence and intensity modeling, or some people term it valence and arousal, depending on which way you go. I usually use valence and intensity. So valence has to do with how positive or negative your emotion is. And when I say positive, negative, I'm not just talking like happy feelings, sad feelings. The valence itself has to do with your chosen emotion. So, great example of this. I had a beauty brand where they were for sure. They came into my consulting like call just saying we know exactly what we go after. The emotion that we're trying to trigger with our customers is 100% confidence. That's all it is, just confidence. And interestingly enough, when I actually analyzed all of their ads, I was like, confidence doesn't seem to be hitting. When you talk about boost your confidence, increase your confidence, become the most confident person in the room, those ads peak a little bit and then they fatigue a lot. So as I dug deeper, I found that some of their customers weren't actually talking about confidence. They were talking about specifically composure, feeling put together, which is like a totally different emotion. That's valence. Valence has to do with which emotion on this like scale are we picking as like our goal to activate. So for the achiever, their valence is very, very positive. Now, valence also exists a little bit on a spectrum, right? So it can be very intense emotions or it can be very like kind of weak, what we call emotions. Not weak as in like they don't work, but weak as in like they're just not very strong. So calm is kind of a low valence, right? It's not a very intense emotion. It's just kind of like nice and breathable, basically. So I digress. So actual, ideal, and oughts, that has to do with the three different selves that exist inside human brains at all times. Valence has to do with which emotions you're actually picking. Are they like high valence? Are they low valence? Are they positive, negative? And then the trigger. So the trigger has to do with obviously what they want most out of products, out of the world, out of like what their experience is. So our very first avatar that we, or avatar identity, right? So the emotional identity that we have identified at Tether is the achiever. This person's very positively future focused and they're very focused on being capable. So the second one in here, now that we know a little bit about like self valence and triggers, the protector is the second one in here. This is really interesting because they're very, very sensitive to messaging around ought self. So anytime you talk about you ought to be doing something, you should be doing something, this is the person that kind of gets activated and shows up. Valence wise, they're a little bit sensitive to negativity. So they're not about positive messaging. They don't really want to hear a lot of aspirational things. They're more about like, it's your duty, right? So they're trying to move away from risk. Their trigger is more about like, you need to get this right? For them, for the people that you care for the people that you're involved with, for your team at work, for your employees, for your kids, for your community. The protector shows up when you start using this kind of language where we talk a little bit more to a little bit of this ought self and the trigger of kind of like it's your duty to do better. This one's really interesting. I love marketing to those guys because fascinating stuff comes in. Okay, identity number 3. This is the minimalist, and they come into all kinds of different industries. You would be surprised where you find this particular emotional identity come out. So the minimalist, very sensitive to actual self. They're very like present people. They are very aware of their environments and they want to move away from overwhelm. So this emotional identity, when we start to market to them, their trigger really is, I don't want more. I just want it to be better. Quality is what we should talk about for somebody who's really emotionally invested as the minimalist, right? So again, these are not avatars. We're not talking about moms who knit anymore or dads who golf or people who want to lose weight. We're talking specifically to people who want to cut out the noise. And I'm going to show you some examples of some ads in a minute. So if this is like, okay, I'm sort of understanding what you're saying, Sarah, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this in your advertising in just a second. But for the minimalist, simple, clean, anybody in your industry that you're marketing to who shows up as the minimalist, you really need to talk a little about keeping what matters, getting rid of everything else, because they're really into that style of marketing. Identity number 4 in here is the rebel. These guys come out strong for Liquid Death. Liquid Death, they target the rebel better than anybody I've ever seen. The rebel is very idealistic, right? Their valence, like positive, negative. They're a little bit on the negative side, mostly because they're trying to move away from being like shut down, right? They hate being chained. They don't like it when people tell them you can't do that. So the rebel, their trigger is very much nonconformity, right? I don't follow the rules, I break them. That's what this person is very sensitive to. So if you're targeting someone, whether you sell skincare or supplements, or whether you're in B2B, whether you're in SaaS, if the rebel shows up inside your marketing sphere, inside your customer base, this person wants to be told, this is what everyone's telling you to do. You need to do the opposite, right? Your ads need to be bold and different. They need to flip the script. They need to constantly push people away from norms. If the rebel's inside your marketing, inside your customer base, you really got to do some work into telling them like you don't need to follow the rules because you're different. These guys are so fun. I love them. Okay, couple more here. Identity number 5. This is the caretaker. These people are really interesting because they're very motivated by that ought self. You should be doing something to take care of the people in your life. They're positively valence though, which is really interesting. So their emotional spectrum, right? They're more focused on positive things than negative things. Their trigger is interesting because they're really about inclusivity and really nurturance, right? So they want to hear messages that talk about like you care for everyone and you show up. You're important. What you do is important in the world. Now, this is interesting because the caretaker comes up often, I think, most in team to team work. So if you're the type of person you're in consulting or, especially on LinkedIn, for those of you who are watching me on LinkedIn, hi. LinkedIn is really interesting because everybody over there is very much caretaker, gets activated a lot. These people want to be recognized for the fact that they care, right? So anytime you're going to target the caretaker, if they show up in your customer base, this particular person really is sensitive to nourishment, right? So giving back, messages about like their emotional return on their investment, that type of messaging is going to work incredibly well. You can get very, very cheap customers in the door if you talk to the caretaker because care for these people really isn't about what they say, it's about what they're doing. So this person, again, if any of these show up in your market base, there's a very specific way that you need to talk to them to bring more of these people in. Okay, 2 more here. Identity number 6. This is the explorer, and I love these guys because they're very idealistic, meaning they're forward thinkers. They're very future focused. Their valence is positive, so they're really interested in things that are like happy, positive, show me some bright, wonderful world. Their trigger, though, is very different than everybody else. Their trigger is very much novelty focused. They want something different. Let's try it, right? They want to see something that nobody's ever seen before. So if you have the explorer in your customer base and you identify that as an emotional trigger for your customers, your ads need to talk about this is the first discovery of its kind, right? Unlock a secret. You're the first to know. If you're curious about this is for you. Your explorer customers, regardless of what their problems are, will always be drawn into your brand, your business, if you talk about like no one's ever seen this before. And that's the point, right? Like the explorer wants it to be different, new, exciting, and like incredibly rare. So talk to the explorer in your ads this week, especially if you're in a business where you have an innovative product and you want to bring in more of these customers. Then yeah, that explorer, try some ads that talk about like this is different than anything you've ever seen before. Last one on here, identity number 7 is the stabilizer. This one, I feel like I'm a stabilizer in a lot of my like a lot of the ways that I purchase things. So this person is very much actual self, right? So they're in their own bodies. They're very much involved in the environments that they're currently sitting in. They're not future focused or past focused. They want to move away from chaos, though. So their valence is like a little bit negative focus because they're the type of people that like I just can't handle all this chaos. The stabilizer, if they show up in your customer base, their trigger is just give me something that works, right? They just want something that's going to like take away any of the confusion. We see a lot of stabilizers specifically in SaaS. So if you're in SaaS right now, or if you're B2B even, a lot of times you'll see the emotional need for stability. Show me a message, give me an ad, show me some sort of like a landing page where you talk about the fact that your particular solution is consistent. Give me proof, right? Show me that it's built to last. Anybody that's in the stabilizer need, if the emotion, like the stabilizer shows up in your customer base, they really just don't want any drama. They don't like hype. They just want results, is all these people want. They show up, like I said, very often in B2B. So if you're a B2B player and you're trying to get more customers in this year, you want to talk to the stabilizer because these are the people that are going to be most likely to buy from your particular ads. Okay, so let's go back to our ad example because I want to show you how you can do this in a few different ways. And then I'm going to show you some brands that are actually doing this in their ecosystems currently. So for this ad, flawless skin and just 3 minutes a day, like we talked about, this isn't really talking to basically anybody because it's a very generalized message, right? So this is what we're starting with. What I think is important is if we run this ad in the ad account, we have no control over which identity sees it and when, right? Which is a big mistake. Because remember, depending on how these people see the world, some identities will see this and kind of flinch. Some identities will see this and feel ashamed. Some identities will kind of just shrug it off. Like this is going to hit some people, and then others are really going to hate it, which causes just drastic volatility in the ad account. So if you're seeing that, this is why it's happening. If you're seeing fatigue or low performance, if you've got a sad media buyer, this is the reason why it's happening. This ad hits people in different ways depending on who they believe they are, depending on their emotional identity. This is why it's happening. So a better strategy would be to identify the exact messaging that would work for each avatar and run an ad towards that, right? Identify the exact messaging that works for each individual avatar and then run your ads towards that. So, for instance, for the achiever, messaging that speaks to like their level of effort, hard work, zero excuses, that's going to speak straight to what they crave most, which is capability of achieving great things. So just taking your ad that talks about flawless skin in 3 minutes and adding one little phrase that just says zero excuses hits the achiever so incredibly well because that emotional need got fulfilled by that ad. You see the difference? Like one of them is just very generalized, talking to like, this is who you are, this is your problem, this is the solution. That's great. But it doesn't hit this particular avatar at all. It's so generalized that they skip it immediately because it's not talking to them. Just adding this 1 0 excuses in here now makes it like connective to this specific emotional need, the achiever. One little word. It doesn't take too much, guys. It's just one tiny little twist of the phrase. So let's do another one. For the minimalist, messaging that kind of speaks to their desire for simplicity, right? Like that just the need for like make it very, very minimalistic. I don't want it to rock my emotional boat, really. This is going to speak to like what they crave most, which is products that don't clutter up their environment, right? They don't want anything to come in and disrupt their beautiful, wonderful, curated routine that they have. So this one, flawless skin that's simplified, 3 minutes a day, 2-step system. Those are the only 2 things I added was the phrase simplified and a 2-step system tells the minimalist This is super simple. It's not going to be harder than what you're currently doing, right? It's going to be very beautiful, simplified system. This is going to hit the minimalist very, very well. And it's two things that we added. Same exact ad, just two little tiny phrases that talk a lot better to the minimalist in particular. The last one on here, an ad for the stabilizer. So this is messaging that needs to speak for their desire for consistency. So if the stabilizer's inside our customer base and we've identified that as somebody we want to target, we need to have an ad that talks about the fact that this is going to be drama free. This particular product is not going to add any sort of complexity to your particular your routine, your day, whatever it is. So one habit once a day, skincare that's on a schedule. Now this hits me. Like I said, I am a stabilizer. So my emotional identity for a lot of different products comes down to please set it on a schedule. Please make it so easy that I don't have to think about it because I'm in a million different rooms all at the same time in my head. This is how you speak to these particular emotional identities very, very clearly. And you want to break this apart in your ad account. You don't want all of your ads speaking to all of your identities in one particular campaign because then you really can't tell which avatar has the highest AOV, which one has the best LTV, which one's cheapest but they churn too much, which avatar is the one that's like this is our core business, which emotional identity is going to be best suited for us. That's what we need to figure out in marketing, and that's what's going to be most important, especially if you want to scale, especially in 2025 and beyond, because the world is just getting more emotional as we train our children about emotional identities, about like emotional intelligence. As we give them more EQ, they grow up and become consumers. All of those people, all those consumers are going to want more emotionally attuned marketing, and that's why this is so crazy important. Okay, I digress. All right. So the amazing thing about this system is once you start tracking the different identities that kind of exist within your ad account, you can also combine them. So I've had some brands that have been running this system for me for over 4 years now. One of which is in like the luxury watch market. So very difficult kind of market to sell into because they're kind of expensive products. And this is we're on like brink of recession or in a recession, depending on what you think. So difficult product, difficult time period to sell it into, and they're growing. They're growing exponentially. They've grown like 120 some percent in the last 2 years just because they're very emotionally aware of which customer types they're targeting in the ad account. So they now have enough data that they've identified their different emotional identities that exist inside their customer base, and they have combined them to the point where they're starting to see different combinations of avatars actually work better inside the ad account. So I want to show you a few different brands that are actually doing this incredibly well. This ad was by the Ladder app. I don't know if you guys have seen this one, but he is the funniest thing I've ever seen. This like fairy kind of a guy who it literally just comes up and like is kind of mean to people and is like, you should quit. Like you should 100% just quit. Like go eat some pizza, go sit on the couch. And this is really interesting because this ad kind of has perfected a little bit of the combination between a rebel and a stabilizer, which usually are two kind of competing emotions. But this ad in particular is kind of mocking the fitness industry, right? And it's mocking a little bit of like fitness culture and perfection, which is something that the rebel responds to, right? The rebel loves, as we talked about before, loves about alternate kind of what's the word, non-conformist ideas. So this ad is kind of inviting viewers to kind of laugh at the pressure instead of submitting to it, instead of trying to become perfect. The rebel inside your customer base, the emotional rebel, craves kind of that opt-out permission. So this is speaking directly to the rebel. This ad is also kind of targeting a different emotional identity, the stabilizers, by saying it's okay, like you're not alone here, right? It's actually kind of funny that people think they have to be perfect in the gym. So this kind of sense of emotional stability that like it's okay to feel this way, imperfection is okay, speaks straight to the stabilizer. This ad is speaking to two different emotional identities at once, and duality in particular is crazy powerful. Very, very powerful because it's permission and reassurance at the same time. You can absolutely be whoever you want to be in the gym, and the way that you feel is normal, is technically what this ad is saying. So great. Oh my gosh. As soon as I saw this ad, I was like, oh, such a good one. Okay. Next one in here. These are two different ads actually by two different brands. This is by Good Shop and Butcher Box. And they're actually going after two different emotional identities in here as well, which is the achiever and the stabilizer again. So this is the interesting part. Achievers are going to kind of go after, like, I want to get the best deal. I want to achieve the best in life, and especially when it comes to getting any sort of like products. Achievers are going to respond to the offer itself because it's a good deal of getting like as much meat as I possibly can for a very, very low price. Stabilizers are going to be very attracted to the practical stability part of this. It's very practical, right? If I get a lot of meat up front, then the whole year, basically, I'm good to go. Like I got enough food in my freezer that I don't have to think about dinner, which is great for a stabilizer, somebody who gets overwhelmed by too much in the world. This is absolutely perfect. So these two ads are both targeting the achievers and the stabilizers, and it's doing an incredible job about bringing in both of those people at once. Fantastic. Last one in here. This is by Dad Gang. I freaking love that brand. They are so good at what they do. They've got a very tight knit community. They target emotion so incredibly well in their ads because if you're a dad, you get it, right? Like there's a specific level of person, I think, that they're trying to target. When I say level, I'm talking about like level of like experience when it comes to kids. They are targeting specifically the explorer in here, people who are kind of driven by self-expression, discovery. Like they want to adopt pieces of clothing that really just display their internal identity. So this brand, dads are really into that. Like if you're a dad, if you're a mom, even if you're like a pet dad, right? If you're a dog dad, if you're a dog mom, similar, very, very similar feelings where you want the world to see that that's the identity you hold. So Dad Gang very clearly trying to attract explorers in here and doing a really, really good job. The second one in here that they're attracting very well is the minimalist, right? So practicality is really, really important for this particular customer base. Form that matches that function. I want a good hat. I want a good quality hat, especially if you're a hat guy. If you identify as being a hat guy and you identify as being a dad, oh, the emotional targeting in this ad is just like chef's kiss. Okay, I digress. So I think it's important to note we have like just scratched the surface with these 7 avatars. This is really important to note that we have identified 7 in Tether when we go and actually study the emotional interior worlds of the customers that we're currently exploring and researching. But we've also kind of identified some like sub like categories, right? So we're uncovering all these really interesting sub identities that exist within kind of multiple niches. And you could think of these as like emotional contradictors, right? They're utility seekers. They're one specific avatar, but then they adopt like the habits of other people. And this happens predominantly because humans are very complex. And as marketers, as brand builders, as business owners, as founders, whoever you are, it is critical that you adopt the skill set of learning how to identify the complex world of your specific customer so you can match your marketing to what they need most. Your marketing must match what's important to the human on the other side of the screen. That way, you don't just build ads, you start building belief in your specific product and in your specific industry, whatever you're currently selling. So, easiest way to do this, fastest way to do this. I've actually built something for this. So, I think the fastest way to learn how to do this is really just to join a community that's currently studying and learning how to do this. I think Tether Lab is one of the best places to go for this because I haven't seen a whole lot of places to go and learn how to apply psychology to your brand and to the marketing campaigns that you guys are currently producing. And this is really just built for practitioners who want to learn how to cut costs, right, without burning that budget, how to scale without stalling, and really how to build like creative that actually targets these emotional identities so you can connect with these people really just to the things that's actually driving the actual purchase and conversion. So inside this community, I've built 30 different kind of like plug and play psychology tools that you can just take and use today. You don't have to do anything for them. Prompts, things like ChatGPT prompts, lots of different worksheets and cheat sheets, checklists, those type of things. We also do weekly labs. So that way you can bring your brand into the actual community and we'll do live audits, guest trainings, those type of things to kind of help you understand how does this apply to my specific brand? Because it drives me crazy when you get involved in some sort of a community or a course and it's generalized information. As we just talked about, generalized is not great. It's not great for marketing these days. So all of this is going to be applicable to your specific brand and business. This is also going to give you kind of a system. That way you don't have to keep guessing as to like which identity am I actually going after. And that way you can kind of start strategically diagnosing who you're targeting, right? And why they're actually responding to your ad. Now, I study humans and science, kind of like behind the sale for D2C, B2B, SaaS, like I talked about. Most of the time, it's not cheap to work with me. My trainings usually started about 1,200 per session, but I started noticing that was difficult for a lot of people, especially this year with tariffs and all kinds of things. So I wanted to kind of reach more people and teach more marketers the power of this like psychology-based marketing. So I've built Tether Lab so everyone and anyone can access the information that they need to kind of succeed with this education. This week only, we are going to launch it at $297. The price is going to go up next week, but if you come in this week, this is kind of lifetime access. So you're going to get it at this price, and it'll never go up for you. So this will be the price that you guys are going to be set at. Also, if you want to come in and try it, I do have kind of like a 14-day trial period, so you can come in for 14 days. If you don't like it, you can totally get your money back. It's interesting these days, I think, trying to figure out, is this good education? Is this going to work for me? I would so much rather you come in, try it for 14 days, and see whether or not it's going to be beneficial for you. Again, if it's not something that's going to be the right time, or if it's not applicable to you, you find that this is not going to be valuable right at this second, you can always get your money back. So in general, though, there's some really interesting things in here. So for the first 5 people that join, I always do this because it's super important when I do these lives. I try really hard to give as much value as possible. I want you guys to get a 24-hour win when you come in here. So first 5 people that join for the Tether Lab, I will personally record these kind of 5-minute audits. They usually turn into like 25 minutes, so don't don't kill me. But I can't get enough of it, so I get really deep in this stuff. I want to add it like ads, landing pages, offers, messaging, email, anything that you find that you're like, this should be hitting, but it's not, and we can't figure it out why. You'll get an entire loom, kind of like a breakdown of exactly which belief, which emotional hook or identity layer is missing from your particular landing page. So that way you know what to fix and how to fix it in particular. Everyone who joins today also, like I said, kind of gets just instant access to all of the private prompt libraries that I'm using. I've been working with brands from startups all the way up to 9 figures for a very, very long time. I've audited accounts all the way from like True Classic, and Avi and all these different guys who have grown very, very successfully, all the way to people who have just started their brand. They're just in the beginning processes of running ads. And I've kind of figured out that there's very specific prompts that we need to put in place, especially if you're using AI, that will help you build a better process around your marketing. You shouldn't have to guess at what to build. And I find that prompt building is one of the biggest things that brands are focused on right now, because the better you can use AI, the better results you're going to get when it comes to producing good ads. So you get access to this entire prompt library. There's lots and lots of these in here, and I just keep adding to it as we go. And then outside of that, I also, like I said, I have worksheets and cheat sheets, ebooks. I have all kinds of checklists. Outside of all of that, though, this is like a full system, right? It's not meant to just like dump a whole bunch of like content on you and then leave you like, goodbye, good luck. And here's the reason why. This is actually something new that we've just launched. We just finished the first one last Friday, actually. I took everything that I have learned over the course of about 17 years of studying behavior science, psychology, advertising, marketing, and put it into a system, specifically a system that's duplicatable, right? So this is a framework that you can use to generate ads that are going to target these specific identities based on the data you already have. I don't want you to have to go get more data. It is stressful enough as we are as marketers with how much data we have to sift through these days. So I want you to be able to take the data you already have, your post-purchase surveys, your reviews, your social media insights, plug them into a system that helps you prioritize them, right? And figure out which insight should we build ads from, and how do we know that's true, right? So this is something that we're starting to run every 6 weeks. It's a 2-day intensive course. So it takes literally, we did this one in 6 hours. It was 3 hours the first day, 3 hours the second day. That way you don't have to spend 8 weeks committing 1 hour a week to learning something new. This is 2 days. Come in, get it done. And this gets you kind of everything you need to kind of prioritize your messaging, like I talked about. Build those emotional headlines. We also have scripts in here, all kinds of different things. If you need UGC, if you need founder videos, and then track what's actually working in the ad account from an emotional standpoint. And school members always get first access to these 2-day intensive courses. So this one in particular, brand new to us, but incredibly valuable. We've been seeing some crazy good results. My school members have taken this and just like ran with it. Some people have this built-in ClickUp now where they can see a full dashboard of all the emotions that are hitting in the ad account, exactly which self they're activating, and then exactly which trigger worked. And I'm like, oh, you guys are so smart. Okay. And that's the last piece of this. I think the full benefit of this is great with the system and everything that's included. But a large portion of this, the benefit of being in communities like these is you're going to be surrounded by unique marketers, like people just like you, right? So people who really want to come in and like completely change or disrupt or whatever you want to call it, people who want to see change in marketing, more empathy, right? People who really want to drive the machine forward. And I just want to give some shout outs to some people that have done just like a great job with this. So, good friend of mine, community member Jamie, is really leveling up. This guy, man, came in as one of the first founding members to this community. He started with like foundational knowledge about psychology. He understood a good chunk of it, but he was able to kind of like take what we had and completely rebuild all of the ad accounts for all of the brands he has on board because he works in agency. One of the brands that he actually worked with saw their opt-in rate jump from 18% to 35% on a landing page with one headline change. Same spend, same traffic, really just the same environment. Nothing else changed. They just shifted the valence, the intensity, the self. And that was basically it. They just dialed up their emotions and saw some amazing results from the start. Leonardo is the one that like I absolutely love this guy. He's kind of interested in leveling up his skills, so he wanted to join the group as the first cohort. And he started learning a lot of the frameworks that I shared in school, and he was able to bump his AOV in particular by 64% with just one A/B test. Like this guy crushed it because before coming into this group, I think he had a really hard time trying to figure out which pieces do I need to put in place? What things should I test? What messaging should I go for? Because at the end of the day, we're kind of just guessing. So he was able to come in and figure out exactly what was wrong, diagnose it very quickly, and then fix it. Yeah, 64% jump in AOV. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Rio is the last one, and her story was really, really fascinating because she was able to kind of sell out her client's product at an even higher price point without discounting. And that's what I love about this group is that these people are so carefully testing. They really want a more structured system. And she was able to come in and really focus her messaging so that she doesn't have to discount the price of what she was selling. And she, from what we could tell, like I talked to her a little bit, she's like, I'm brand new to this. Like, I'm a new media buyer. I'm a new growth marketer. Like, I haven't been doing this that long. So, yeah, oh, she crushed it. Like, just, I can't even get enough of her story. So, if you guys want to join this week only, like I said, you can get access for $297. There's always that 14-day trial period. So you guys want to come in, check it out, see if you like it. You could always get your money back. So I don't want you to have to spend money on stuff that doesn't work for you. The price does go up next week to $397. So I think, yeah, today's the day, guys. And this is where it comes down to. We're going to try and figure out a way to do better marketing this year. It comes down to the psychology of your customers and aligning your message with their emotions, specifically the identities that exist inside all of us. So if you want to join, I have either QR code or you can kind of just drag and drop this URL in there. Yeah, because we're not building for the fantasy customer anymore this year. We're going to be building for the ones that are actually holding the phone. I want to build for humans, right? And this is the best place to be if you kind of want to learn how to take the psychology and apply it to what you're actually building. Yeah, and this is kind of the future of ads, like psychology, understanding empathy, understanding how to use the AI structures that we currently have in place, the tools that we have to better shift your market. That's how we actually build better marketing this year. So if you're ready to kind of start, go ahead, lock this in. I'm going to jump to Q&A. My son has a question though. What do you need? Sorry.
Can I have popsicle?
Yeah, you can have popsicle. Good. Thank you. Oh, you closed that door. Thank you. So try it again. Okay, you can have a popsicle. He waited so patiently. He was just like standing by me. He was like raising his little hand. He's adorable. Okay. Questions, drop them in the chat. If you guys have any questions, yeah, let's go ahead. So first one, you're saying create an ad set for each identity with specific emotional ads rather than run different ads to different emotions to the same ad set. Yeah, so I get this question a lot, and I think this is like a fantastic one. I create an ad set for each specific emotional test that I'm running. So I have a whole kind of structured system that I use based upon a study that I ran that was by Google. But in the ad sets themselves, I'm testing one specific emotion at a time because I don't necessarily I don't want to blend data. And I think that's what we're kind of doing in advertising these days. I don't want all my ads to go into one giant ad set and then just be like, oh, this one worked, but I can't tell why. So yes, I split all my ad, like the emotions out by ad set. And then in that ad set, I might have maybe 3 to 5 ads running at a time. I am not a volume person because I truly believe that volume actually makes it difficult for us to learn what worked. If you split it out by ad set, you can tell immediately this ad set is only targeting belonging, or this one's only targeting esteem or whatever, confidence, whatever it is. And now we can tell the confidence ad set is freaking crushing compared to, dang, I have like 18 emotions in here and I don't know if it won or lost because all of the rest of them are in here too. Yeah, break it apart. Break it apart, break it apart. That's a really good question though, and that's something I find. Yeah, structuring your ad accounts towards what you want to learn is critical. Critical. Do not structure your ad account just because somebody told you to run cost caps. Don't do that. Right? We need to structure our ad account based upon what you want to learn. Do you want to figure out which emotions hit? Structure your ad account towards that. Do you want to figure out which level of customer journey has the highest AOV? Structure your ad account towards that. Do you want to learn like which demographics, like which generation is going to respond best to your product? Or do you want to test and see? Can we get in more millennials instead of trying to like get all boomers in? Structure your ad account towards what you want to learn, not just like what people tells you is best practice, which we can talk deeper into that if you guys want. Okay, questions. Any more questions? All right. Thank you. I love creating content. I don't know if you guys can tell. I really love this stuff. I can't get enough of it. Thank you. You're so kind. Josh, hi. You are the best. I see you everywhere, and I'm always like, I need to like sit down and chat with you because you and I think align a lot on our marketing practices. It's so fun. People create content. Like I know it sounds scary, but I'm like, I've had the most fun just generating content and like getting to like meet other people and explore the weirdness of the internet. It's so fun. So fun, so fun. Yes. Okay, Emmett. Hi, Emmett. Oh, all my friends are here today. I'm so excited. Curious how well the one on the left would do as a billboard, though. Ooh, interesting. So I think if you're talking about the one on the left, I'm assuming we're talking about like the ads that we're looking at before, right and left. If it's a generalized message and you really want to broadcast it to the world, a billboard, I am not entirely sure. That's a really good question. And here's the reason why. I have seen some people try and go real targeted. Bumble was probably the one the one that tried really hard to put some emotion into their ads recently and got totally canceled because of it. Because yeah, they didn't deliver a very good message. So this is specifically for paid advertising. I will say your message in particular, whatever your core message is, you can absolutely apply it to different mediums depending on who your audience is at that point in time, right? Ads are interesting because obviously the algorithm is going to serve them to as close as possible to the person we need to bring in. Billboards are different. The different customer type. It's obviously like a much broader target audience, and there's no way to tell who's going to see it. So in general, I like to say social media needs to be very emotional, very like carefully targeted. Anything outside of the social media sphere, different strategy. We need to use a little bit more brand focused and help people come into the ecosystem and start exploring our social media. That's technically what that is for. That's a good question though. You and I need to chat about that because that would be really interesting. I need to talk to somebody who knows billboards really well. Okay, did a lot of ad copy and context. Yes, for luxury watches. Luxury is a totally different beast, and I have only met a few people who are dipping their toes over there. And shout out to Nate Lagos. If you guys don't follow Nate, go find him. Nate Lagos, Lagos, Legos, yeah, Lagos. Um, Nate is a killer. He is a killer in that space. He's very, very good at luxury because it's one of those spaces that you got to walk a really fine line in your messaging. It needs to be emotional, but it cannot be applicable to everyone. Luxury is the only space where psychologically this really needs to be exclusive in the way that not everybody gets access to it. Not exclusive as in like we gatekeep. That's a different kind of exclusivity where it's like if you pay us enough, we'll let you in. But exclusivity when it comes to luxury comes down to psychologically, we don't want everybody to want this. We well, okay, I should say we want everybody to want this, but we only want one person to be able to get it, if that makes sense. Yeah. You're right, Josh. You're 100% right on that one. Oh, okay. Do you think this is applicable to LinkedIn ads? Yeah. I feel LinkedIn is different from all other platforms regarding ads. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Jan, I have seen that forever. Everywhere. Jan Yen, sorry. I'm terrible with names. I have seen this on LinkedIn. You are 100% right. LinkedIn is a very interesting space because people are in a different frame of mind. Now, this is the reason why I love this type of system because in general, I have noticed that different types of content or ads, right, will hit on different platforms in different ways. I can't run the same message on Twitter that I can on LinkedIn and see the same results. So when it comes to advertising, just note that you're trying to kind of target these emotional identities by the state that they're in on the different platforms that they're browsing. If you're on LinkedIn, you're usually in business mode, right? You're either usually looking for somebody, you're trying to find some more information, you're looking for business connections or trying to comment or building content. You're in build mode. Like you're really in build mode on LinkedIn. If you're on Twitter, I've noticed it's a little bit of build mode, but it's a lot of just like, what's the word? Yeah, it's a lot of just like people being contentious. It's a lot of just like conversation, right? Really fast hits, basically. So yes, to answer your question, you got to tailor your ad specifically to the mode that your emotional identity is in. So if you're targeting the minimalist or whoever it is, like the caretaker, you need to talk about caretaking as it pertains to their job, as it pertains to their career, as it pertains to what they're trying to get in life. This is the reason why if you guys have ever posted content on LinkedIn and you post a really helpful tutorial that's like really in depth and it's like, that did okay. And then you randomly post something that's just like, I don't know, like a personal story about you and your child and what you learned about like business from parenting, that one explodes. That's why. Because LinkedIn is really, they're very specific about the way they want content delivered. But yes, okay. I digress. Oh, LinkedIn is fascinating. They are one of the most interesting platforms I think I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see what we got in here. You guys are great. Oh, I love this type of stuff. Okay. I think we're going to end a little bit early today, which is great because it's a Friday. I want to get you all back to work. I try and keep this about 45 minutes. So if you want to join, please do. I would love to see you in Tether Lab. This is one of my favorite things that I've ever got to like be a part of. Please come join us. Otherwise, have a lovely Friday. Let's make some good ads this week. Take a weekend off, rest your brain because it all comes down to that. And then back on Monday. I think let's get deeper into this because the more that we can actually build empathy and psychology into our advertising, the better the world is going to be. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. You guys are the best. We'll see you guys later. I love this stuff.